Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. Death, taxes, and a Solomon Dacres decision win. Dacres takes it over 10 rounds over the South African Chris Thompson on a next-gen card in Birmingham. So this was a fight where Dacres looked pretty decent in stretches, but it was again another occasion where you wanted to see a little bit more. Him sort of put his foot down against his tiring opponent, go through the gears. We never quite got that. We got it in little bursts, and for the most part, he was landing his right hand, consistently with accuracy, and it was having an effect, especially in the first half of the fight. But after a while, Thompson was able to, through throwing back some counters, he was hanging around, he was making it tough. But Dacres, you felt he could have got a little bit more on top and potentially even got Thompson out of there. And the problem will become for Solomon Dacres is he falling behind, or is he even really in the conversation with some of the other British domestic heavyweights who are garnering more attention, that are being talked about, Fabio Wardley, Fraser Clark, David Adelaide. And some people will say, well, can you consider the likes of Clark at the same level of a Wardley based on what we've seen so far? But the thing is, people are talking about him. Dacres sort of seems to be a little bit on the outside looking in. Even Jamie Shakiva through Sky and Boxer is starting to make a few strides in getting his name a little bit more known. So, Dacres, he's got good technique, he's a good boxer, but he probably, without that real sort of money punch, is just struggling probably to get himself in the conversation with the other guys. Because what happens, you keep getting decisions, people consider you to be a largely boring fighter. And I thought, through the first 5 rounds, especially in this fight, Dacres was being a bit more aggressive. You had Thompson after 3 rounds in the corner, breathing heavy. Dacres barely looked like he was troubled at all with his breathing in the corner. And Dacres was, landing the right. But I guess maybe it was becoming a little bit too predictable, because I was thinking he needs to vary things up. And the guy's got all the shots in the book, but it seemed he was a little bit hand happy at times. But in front of him, he did have a guy in Chris Thompson who's not a mug or anything like that. He was able to land consistently to the body, especially early in rounds. He was popping the jab, looking for counters. Nothing that he ever threw troubled Dacres, but he was able to just throw him off his rhythm at times and just hang around, be a pest, and keep himself out of trouble. Because in that first 3 or 4 rounds in particular, there were right hands that were visibly affecting Chris Thompson. And I thought, well, I'm liking this version of Dacres, a bit more aggressive, trying to put it on Thompson. But then he never sort of went through the gears to get him out of there. And I think the opportunity was there. And I think working to the body could have been something he could have done a little bit better. And of course, if he was right-hand happy, he was neglecting some of the other shots that he could have used and deployed to help, disguise the right hand, which clearly was landing and with frequency. But Thompson was seeing it coming, so he was able to, brace for the impacts. So death, taxes, and a Solomon Dacres decision. He's probably starting to get a little bit of to a place in his career where, what's going to happen, because I think people forget the guy's 29 years old. So he's starting to move to a position where he needs to start stepping up. He needs to be impressing, and he needs to be putting on performances that get people turning their heads. And at times, there were flashes of it in this Thompson fight, but it didn't quite all come together, probably in the way that he and his corner wanted. It was an okay performance, but probably nothing more than that. And you consider the level of the sort of opposition, perhaps he should have done a bit better. And I think for his sake, getting a stoppage would have been something that would have looked good. It would have been a little bit of a statement. I mean, his last fight out, you had that overmatched former cruiserweight and Rob Ismay. This was also another former cruiserweight, but Thompson clearly a better fighter, more about him, able to, absorb the shots and throw back and actually try to, get Solomon Dacres thinking and working. But at times, especially in the second half of the fight, Dacres just became a little bit predictable. And I think there was certainly an argument in round 7 that he just sort of took the round off for whatever reason, didn't really seem to be troubled by the pace of the fight, which he was dictating the pace of the fight, but he allowed Thompson to get his shots off, jabs. There was shots to the body, a good straight left in there, and I gave Thompson that round. That was my round in my 99-91 scorecard. Not sure the other round that you could have given to Thompson, but obviously one judge thought one was there. I mean, it is what it is. It was a landslide of a decision for Dacres, but again, it's another signal of what we're likely to see at that next step, that next level, that he's going to, have all the skills and shots, but the power is going to hinder him somewhat. The lack of a real knockout blow. And if you're not stopping guys at this level, you're not going to stop them at the next level. So is he in the conversation at the moment with these other guys? Probably not. Does he deserve to be? Well, he probably thinks so. But I think if you can't put on those statement type performances, you're not helping yourself. So what next? Who next? I know on Twitter someone says, well, what about someone like Jamie TKV? And that could be a pretty decent fight for the English title. Both those guys are good boxers, good fighters, but that's got decision written all over it. I mean, arguably, I think I would probably favour Solomon Dacres to win that because he's the bigger, longer man. And if it's a boxing match, I think both those guys, they'll just kind of nullify each other. And I think the bigger man with the longer reach is probably just going to land it a little bit more. It's probably not going to be one of those fights that delivers the fireworks that we often want to see. And sometimes I think, especially at this level that he's fighting at, you have to remember it's an entertainment sport. People don't want to see some guy popping a jab from long range for long periods of time and not doing much. So that's why I was encouraged to see the more aggressive Dacres, but he just didn't quite go through those gears and, really put it on Thompson, who when he did string together combinations and periods where he was really pressuring him, putting him under pressure, Thompson struggled and Dacres had a lot of success, but he would just take his foot off the gas. So who else is out there that you could kind of go, okay, well, he's got the English title, who could he face? Is it guys like Steve Robinson, Nick Campbell, Franklin Ignatius? I mean, I think Franklin Ignatius probably deserves the shot, but that also probably has the likelihood of being a fight with Ignatius who can kind of make it a bit scrappy. It's going to be a fight that's not going to be pleasing to watch probably. Someone like Steve Robinson, Dacres with Robinson's holes and flaws probably can sort of slice through him and I think probably get a knockout over, several rounds. So what did you make of the performance, the fight, and Solomon Dacres' death, tax, and another decision?